XS1B, here we are again. Today we're going to start on the charging and the ignition system. We already took the rectifier out. That was mounted on a bracket that came off the rear fender here. We have to remove voltage regulator and wiring. Rotor, stator, coils, disconnect all that wiring. Let's just start tearing stuff out. One thing you want to do, at least I want to do, once you have this up on top dead center, come across to the other side, which is why I lift this cover off, and make a timing mark or two so you know where top dead center is if you should move the crank. Because the charging system I'm putting on here is a Vape system, and I'll explain that more later. But yeah, I have to remove this and kind of, I think, make my own timing marks. I'm not sure. Once it's set, you really can't change the timing on the Vape. It's not like this. Everything under here comes out, the points, the rod that goes through, over here, the advance comes out because it's got all electronic advance, and you can kind of set it from one of 3 or 4 different programs as to what you want. And that's one of the reasons I picked this. You know, because it's kind of adjustable in case you get some kind of kickback or something. So I'll explain more as we go along, but let's start tearing her apart. I'm going to remove the old voltage regulator. I'm kind of hoping the new regulator will fit over here. It looks like it might be similar in size. I guess I got to unplug this first too, or not first, but unplug it. Alright, it's just a quick connector up here, just like that. Alright. So the answer to that question is a big no. Will not fit there. Unfortunately. I might have to make some kind of bracket mounted up here, which will be fine. And it looks like a good place for it. One thing I should mention, I did forget to remove the battery out before I started, but I mean, I just unplugged the regulator, so. But yes, definitely take your battery out. Don't, even if you just disconnect it, there's always that chance that the wire could touch back again and zap something in the charging system while you're working on it. All right, I think we're gonna try to take that cover off next. Now this is the harness up here where this plugs in. So we're going to disconnect that, take our wires out, down through here. It's held in by a couple of clips under here, and then we'll get this off. One thing I will mention is that your neutral light switch, the wire goes into this harness, so you will have to remove that out of the harness. I did that on the XS1. These switches are just, well, this one looks like it might have been soldered. They're just like little push switches. You just push down this and you should be able to pull the wire out. All right. Hoping I don't ruin this switch. Oh, looks like it's soldered on this one. Ooh, all right. Let me get back to you on this. So I got my soldering gun out here. because I believe that is soldered. I'm going to see if I can melt it and get that wire out. Hopefully. Let me set you up so you can watch also. You might have a better view of this than I do. Here we go. So that's all it was. Just soldered in there. Might take a couple of seconds to get it out. Good deal. So I got this wire out of the clips. I didn't think this would go easy. Why would it? It's one. I really hope I don't hit the camera. Maybe I should just move you a little bit. There we go. Just that easy. All right, I really thought that was going to be easier. If you won't get that, I bet you'll get this. Gonna prove me wrong? Feels like it's coming. There we go. That's out of the way anyway. And what did I say? When in doubt, hammer it out. Should have done that in the first place. One key. All right, so this is the new Stator. What's neat about this is the charging system and the ignition system are separate. So it has its own, creates its own power for the ignition system. Kind of like a magneto on a lawnmower where you don't need a battery or anything. So potentially what could happen is if there's an issue with your charging system and your battery starts to die, the bike will still run, which I thought was a neat idea. So let's get this in. The wires have to go in this little cutout. You got to make sure that they're not pinched anywhere when you put this on. They supply you new bolts. Obviously I'm going to put some Loctite on them. This mark here, I believe that's your new top dead center mark. I could be wrong, but let's get this in, see how everything lines up. All right, this makes me a little nervous. They keep using words like total destruction in there. It also says, they give you 2 washers, but it also says not to use any different bolts than the ones provided. And also doesn't tell you whether to use washers or not, because any bolts with bigger heads will hit. So I'm hoping I have this. I mean, it's rocking, but there's no other way to put this wire. Let's see what happens if I start to snug it down. All right, that's not gonna fit. It's hitting up here. It's hitting the case. So that is not gonna fit like that. Well, you know what? I'm gonna have to do some investigating on my XS2. See if this is the same. Okay, I thought there was no way this thing was gonna fit under this cover. But I just put this cover on. With that on there. So even though this sits up here, it actually must right above it, the cover. So, good. I guess it will fit after all. Okay, we need to do a little experiment here. So, remember I said that it has kind of like its own self-powering ignition, like a magneto in a lawnmower. Well, here's the problem with that. When you turn the key off, you're going to shut the charging system down, but you're not going to shut the ignition system down. Kind of like with a lawnmower, you ground out the spark plug, you know, to shut it down, or ground out the coil. So what we have to do is we have to use a relay. And I just want to see how this relay is going to work because I have no kill switch. If you had a kill switch, you turn the kill switch on and you could ground out the coil. This being the ground. So if we want this to ground the coil out, we need to take a relay like this. So what I want to do here is hook a ground from my my battery over here to this ground point. Now we'll take positive from the battery. So when you turn the key on, what you're basically going to do is power this relay here. I don't know if you heard that click. And now this wire, let's see, we'll take the lead, the positive lead from a voltmeter, hook it to the positive on the battery. So now when I connect this to negative on the battery, we got 12 volts. So that means when this is grounded, we get 12 volts to the meter. So when I turn the key on, like it is now, we don't get that. When I turn the key off, we get ground. And that will kill the coil. So installing this relay is what it's going to take to shut this engine off. Now, a relay is another piece of electronics that's going to go in the bike. But the good news is, if this relay goes bad, we unplug the blue wire and we can start the bike again. That's all it's going to take. Because without that ground, without this blue wire being connected, the bike will start and run. Getting it home after that, yeah, just stall it out. Okay, that's my education on relays. After thinking about this overnight and looking at pictures, some of the later engines, this was cut way up here. And I believe that's why on these older ones, this is much thicker. The reason I took it back off again, though, is because I'm not so sure that that's going to sit flush with it there. I'm probably going to take the Stator to work and machine it. And when I say machine it, I mean cut it with a saw. So it's below here. Because where this sits and where this sits, they kind of feel flush, but I want to say maybe not. And if it's at an angle, when I put this on, it could be problems. So, yeah. I think I'm going to do that just to be on the safe side. It shouldn't hurt it, as long as no debris gets in those windings. And I got to figure out a way to mount everything else. Well, I'm back again. So you can see that part there has been ground down. I removed, the stator part of it. These 3 screws came out really easy. So I decided to put lock washers on those because they didn't have them. So now we're going to mount that on here, and I'm going to show you how it looks now that I ground it down. Okay, that's what it looks like now. So before, remember this oops, I can't see it. Before this overhang over this piece of metal, now we can see down here that it sits on that tab right there. And we don't have to worry about it sitting up here and not on the tab and being crooked. So I added the washers, which doesn't say to in the instructions, but when I went online, looked pictures of it, yeah, those washers were there. Ran the wires through here, gotta be careful, gotta put this grommet in. Run the wires under here into this clip. Up here into this clip. And then we can figure out what we're going to do with them from there. Okay, so that is added. So the reason I kept this side off was so I would line the other side up with top dead center, and I would make a mark or two, just to make sure that the crank didn't move. And it hasn't. So what I have to do now is install the rotor on top. And because there's no keyway anymore, we have to make sure that the line on the rotor lines up with this little dot down here. And then we know that it's set for all the pickups. We can make our own timing marks down here afterwards. But once this thing is set and set the way we want it, there's nothing to change as far as timing. The only way you could change the timing is to pull it back off, turn it, and put it back on again. So that may be a downfall for some of you, but once it's set, and you won't have to ever change it again. Here's the rotor that they send with you. Now, it's got nothing but magnets in here. So, there's got to be something different about one of these magnets that is going to trigger this, the ignition part of this, because there's no pickup. So there's got to be something different about one of these that it knows which one triggers it. There's the line that you have to line up with that dot. That's the top dead center line. Now it comes with a puller, so you can pull this off to adjust it, because the original puller will not match, will not work on this. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to thread this on. We're going to put this puller on. So that way, when we go to install this, we can install it slowly. We can, you know, loosen the bolt and have it, once we get the line and the dot lined up, well, I'll show you. We can back this off and then let the rotor drop down. Because if we try to do it now, those magnets are just going to suck it right down to whatever position it is. And I don't know if we're going to be able to turn it without turning that crank. So let's put this on and give it a shot. Okay, here's my thought. Here's the line, here's the dot. So we gotta have it somewhere down there. As we undo this screw here in the puller, this slowly goes in. You can feel the magnets pulling at it. And see, now I can still spin it fairly easily. All right, I'm going to need to be underneath this to see it, so I'm going to have to move you out of the way. Might be tough to see. It depends on the angle I have you at as to whether this line looks like it's lined up with that dot. But it is. If it doesn't look that way, it may just be the angle of the camera I'm recording at. So now I've got that lined up. Now I've got to put the washers and the nut in here, tighten that up without the crank moving again. 2 steel washers. One nut. And now comes the fun part, tightening that without moving the rotor. There probably really is no good way of doing this, unless you had a tool to lock these two where you could hold it while you tighten the bolt. I think what I'm going to do, snug that a little. Could try to lock the gears on the other side, but I don't think that's going to work. Could hit it with an impact and try to slam it for a second, but yeah, that ain't going to work either. So if you had a spanner tool, which I don't have, if you had a spanner tool, which I don't have, you could hook it in there. I don't think it really gives you any good suggestions on how to do it. So I put this pry bar just like that in that tooth, held it against there. come over this side. A nice big adjustable. Put my adjustable wrench on here. Tighten it as tight as I can get it. Alright, did 2 full revolutions, sounded good, lined it back up with a dot. It's lined back up on the other side, so that part is done. Let's get the sprocket on. Genuine Yamaha sprocket. 17 tooth, 34 tooth in the back. That was the original sizes. There we go. Gonna zap that with the old gun and we'll lock that into place. Put the glove on, safety first, right? Bend our locking tab over. Tap that down into place as soon as I find my hammer. Yeah, I really should put this in gear or something. Make life easier on myself. That's it. Locking tab is down. Chain can go on, but I think I'm going to continue with the ignition for now. Take the points cover off. Let's unplug this from the harness. Ooh, flat blade. Just remember it ran with these, so you know, when it doesn't run again, you can say I told you so. Move the points cam here. Now when you're top dead center, this is either going to point straight up or straight down. The little pin in there. Let's see. Let's go over to the other side. Remove that. Remove the nut for the wheel weights here. Pull the whole shaft out. Alright, we'll get these off, get that nut off, and we'll have this whole thing disassembled. You think I'm going to lose this clip? I might. My track record on these things is not that great. Oh, I dropped it, but I got it. Yeah, I probably should put a spark plug in there. That would have been a smart thing to do. I could see the clip falling down that hole. Don't want to turn it into a disaster. Might already be a disaster. Just because I'm on camera, I can't get it. Yeah, that's the reason. Oh, it went flying, but I heard it, and I believe I know where it is. Alright, the weight's off, and the spring's off. And one more thing you probably want to do while you're here. There's a pin under here. Probably want to take that out, because otherwise, without something holding it, it's probably going to fly around. We've removed all that from the ignition system. There's one more part of it. Which I'm probably not going to remove. Or maybe I will, just for the hell of it. The condenser is up behind this mount, this engine mount. Why? Why put it somewhere like that? I don't know. Anyway, we have to take off the top mount to get it out. I'll do it just to do it. I left it in the Yamaha just in case for some reason I ever wanted to put the points back in, that it's already there. There's your condenser.